Hey guys, Scott here, and as is tradition with every patch, as I'm downloading the PTB, which for some reason takes 40 minutes to install, I like going over the actual patch notes and the new perks for things that we don't actually have to play to be able to comment on, unless there's a perk that's very unique and requires specific gameplay to actually see how good it is. But for the most part, let's go over everything. Obviously, new stuff. Chat filter is great for people that don't want to be called racial slurs at the end of every match. I can't see a negative reason to that. I probably won't use it because I don't care, but I mean, a lot of people do find that horrible, so I completely understand. That's great for them. Blight, my god, he's taller. They did it so far, 10 out of 10 patch, zero complaints. They also apparently reworked the collision detection for his power, so apparently on maps like Ormond, where you just slide off of everything, the rocks and the cars and the debris and all that stuff, apparently the detection for that is now at a different height as well, so you should not slide off of things. Now, this might have a negative effect on killers like Hillbilly, who used to be able to slide off of these things. Not intentionally, obviously, but this seems to be like it might make it a bit harder for killers like that to actually slide off of that and not collide when they don't want to collide. But for Blight, this is a very, very good thing, and I can't wait to actually test it. But from the description so far, it sounds very, very good. Wraith increased his cloaked movement speed. Again, they are 2 for 2 with well-needed, very good changes so far. So that is awesome. Now, it seems like there's a caveat. They couldn't just buff Wraith because then he'd be too strong, but they decreased his movement speed while on cloaking and basically slapped that onto what Windstorm currently does now. So it seems like, oh no, okay, so Windstorm is basically going to match. So if you, I'm trying to put this into better words. If you have like a Purple Windstorm in your base kit, it's probably going to be closer to just what Purple Windstorm was to begin with, maybe a little bit faster, because, you know, they nerfed the add-on but buffed the base kit. So it's not like it's insane now if you throw on Purple Windstorm. They just brought both of them closer together to remove the dependence on Windstorm as an add-on, which is a very, very good change and something that we desperately have been asking for years and years and years. And I think the main part of the Windstorm add-on now is to remove the uncloaking movement speed penalty, which is huge because they seem to have increased the penalty if you do not have it. So that's something I'll have to mess around with. It might be that Windstorm is still required, but it's looking like overall from the description that this is a lot better for Wraith and will give him the map control he has desperately needed since he was released 5 years ago. So that is very, very good so far. Colorblind modes have been added. They weren't talking shit. They actually added them. I'll be testing that as well, but I can't imagine they would just lie about adding that, so that's awesome. I'm glad they actually stuck with their word there. Decisive Strike has received the nerf that we were all talking about a while ago, where doing certain things like repairing gens or healing other people will disable it, because that means you're not being tunneled anymore. You can still be healed by other people, but there are a bunch of other videos on the effects of the new Decisive Strike, which I think are great. So that is very good as well. They made some UI adjustments as well for the performance, and they made things position a little bit better. And they made the friend request or the game invite request you get a bit easier to interact with. Other than that, though, they fixed a whole bunch of bugs, which I could go into, but it's kind of weird to go into bug fixes on a PTB because there are going to be new bugs as well that we just have not seen yet. And there already are some known issues right now like these. So I think going over the bugs is not the important part. I just wanted to go over the actual patch notes themselves so far. But overall, the patches outside of the new content seems very, very good. The Blight change is something we've wanted for a long time. Wraith change is something that we've wanted for an even longer time. So overall, not too much has changed, but the changes they made were very, very good and welcome. So that is awesome, and I'm very happy to see it. Now let's go over the actual new perks. I can pretty much tell how good or bad these are going to be without having to play, because they're fairly straightforward. So the first perk by the new Survivor is basically you get it's a pallet stun exhaustion perk. Whenever you get a stun, you get your sprint burst. Seems pretty decent. Sometimes you can't get a stun, but sometimes getting a stun on an unsafe pallet, the only way you could possibly get away is if you like run around and then lithe over it to get away. This makes it so you don't even have to do that. You can just get your stun and run to safety. So I actually like this. I can see this actually having some pretty decent use. Overall, not a bad exhaustion perk. Very, very, very good when you have an unsafe pallet. With safe pallets, it doesn't really do that much because you don't really want to leave if you're at a safe pallet. So it's kind of like lithe, where you don't want to use it sometimes. With this perk, you don't want to use it sometimes, but on the unsafe pallets that you do want to use it on, very, very good. So not a bad exhaustion perk at all. Whoops, I think I started it. Oh yeah, this one. Whenever another survivor within 12 meters of you gets hit by a basic attack or a special attack, self-preservation activates. Your scratch marks are hidden for 10 seconds. This doesn't seem worth it at all. Because it's not when you get hit to get away and drop your scratch marks. It's when another survivor within 12 meters of you gets hit, then you lose your scratch marks, which makes no sense because if a survivor is getting targeted, you don't want to lose scratch marks. You want to take the aggro from that now injured survivor most of the time. So this perk almost works backwards. I can't imagine anyone will ever use it. There's no real situation where I can find that usable. The last one is whenever a survivor is hooked, you gain 3 tokens. You consume all your tokens after a great skill check on a generator. Each token consumed grants a 1% bonus progression for each great skill check when repairing gens. So basically that would be the original great skill check, which is 1% plus 3%, which is 4%, which is basically you save 3 seconds on a generator per survivor. So if there's like 8 hooks on a survivor, overall you'll save 24 seconds if you use all of them at once, which could have some type of a BNP type action. Now, this perk is almost definitely going to be complete garbage. However, I can foresee one possible use of this perk being really good, and that's when 4 people have it and they save it the entire match while everyone is almost dead. Think about it. Let's say everyone's on death hook, so we've got 8 hooks, right? Everyone's on death hook, so we have 8 hooks, and then we get 2 or 3 survivors with this perk on a generator that hasn't even started yet while the killer's chasing another guy. If everyone's still alive, they can do basically 25% of the gen, 25% of the gen, 25% of the gen on a single great skill check. They can finish that gen in 10 seconds probably. That's the only scenario I can see this perk having somewhat of like a burst old BMP type use. Other than that, though, in like a standard game, you have to be pretty much desperately losing for this perk to have any real value, because just the base tokens you get from a single hook is you save 3 seconds on a generator, which is just not that much. So, yeah, overall this perk seems shit, but I can see very niche uses of it, surprising the killer on that last generator with like a full team of it with coordination. But in your standard solo game, this perk is going to be pretty much useless. Okay, let's go over the killer perks now. Starstruck activates when you're carrying a survivor. Survivors when you're terrorious are exposed for 30 seconds. Cooldown for 90 seconds when you're not carrying anybody. On killers, first of all, I need to make this clear. You're not going to get downs with this while you're carrying a survivor. It's not like Mad Grit where you're baiting people while you're getting hooked, because as soon as they enter your terror radius, they immediately just get exposed. So they're not going to take hits because they're exposed. So the perk doesn't work like that. However, on killers with high mobility, I could see this being useful. For example, if you have like infectious fright or something like that, or I mean even agitation on or something like that, you can probably get some good value out of this by just having a big terror radius, downing people, seeing where they are, and quickly hooking the person. Now, if you're a killer without mobility, this perk is going to be basically useless unless they're just right next to you for some reason, which they won't be because they'll get the exposed notification. But if you are a killer that has mobility like Nurse or Hag or Spirit or, Billy or any of these killers that can get somewhere within probably the 20 seconds that you have left, then it's actually pretty good. So this is one of those perks I'm going to have to test with. I would say on a good half of the killers, this perk is going to be completely useless. But on the other half that have some type of mobility, even like Freddy, for example, could have some good use with this. It's kind of like an interesting version of Mad Grit, kind of. Not really. But this is something I'd have to actually play with. I can't just give my opinion on it and without actually playing it, but it has potential on killers with mobility, but that's about it. Next, No Way Out. This is whenever the last gen is repaired, the entity blocks your exit gate switches for 10 seconds. Basically, it's barbecue and chili, but instead of the 25% bonus, you get 10 seconds of additional blocking of the exit gate actual, timer thingy before, when everyone's done. When the match is done. God, I'm stumbling over words here. So this kind of functions as it's like a remember me, but it happens before you even begin to actually open the gate. So I could see like a remember me Noed and No Way Out build, because 40 seconds is actually a pretty long time to block both of the exit gates. And it's not really something the survivors will notice until they get to it. So you could still have survivors kind of be exposed in the middle of nowhere and they can't really do anything yet. So I think this perk's actually not bad. The only caveat is you have to essentially lose the match for it to become active, but This is basically if you're banking on that end game build with Remember Me, Noed, Blood Warden, and No Way Out, for example, would be like, a pretty scary end game build. Typically, you don't want to let the game get to end game because I consider that like you're really in trouble at that point. You're probably going to lose. But 40 seconds of blocked time for both the exit gate switches is not insignificant, especially if you combine that with Remember Me too, because then you got the 40 seconds of blocked exit gate there, and then the actual exit gates takes longer to open, and then you throw Blood Warden on there, and then once they are open, as soon as someone's hooked, and they still can't leave. So you can do a lot of interesting stuff with this. Now, the end game collapse won't matter with this because that doesn't start until the actual gate is, opened or, you close the hatch. But if you close the hatch, it doesn't matter. So overall, I think this could work in an end game build. I don't think this is a bad perk. 40 seconds is not insignificant. So it's not bad, actually. Finally is the new Hex, which is crowd control. Whenever you fast vault the window, it's blocked for 14 seconds. And that is an extremely powerful effect. That is an effect survivors will absolutely hate going against because the only fun thing for them to do is loop a killer, and this basically just completely blocks you from doing that. So a very, very strong hex. This is a hex that people will immediately go out of their way to find and break because you really can't loop at all if you just block every single vault unless you're like on the game or a map with no windows and just only pallets. But this has a very, very powerful effect. It just essentially removes looping from every generic tile. With zero effort. You don't even have to bamboozle it. It just happens. So yeah, very, very strong hex. I can imagine survivors will absolutely hate this. This will be run with Undying and Rune probably. And it's a very good hex. I don't know what to say about it. The killer's perks are infinitely better than the survivor's perks. Overall, I can see two of them actually having non-meme use. And yeah, the survivor perks are not great, but the exhaustion one's pretty good. That is it, guys. I am almost done installing the PTB now, and I'm going to go test that basically right now. But overall, the patch seems really good. The perks seem mostly good. And now let's see what the killer is to hopefully round off a very good patch. But I'm not going to get optimistic because, the twins happen. So I'll see you next time.